In essence, the movement of ships is regulated and closely monitored by the Kenya Ports Authority under strict observance of both national and international laws that govern bilateral and multilateral business engagements under the mutually agreed government-to-government legal provisions. B, in the lingering diesel importation issue, the Kenya Ports Authority management did its due diligence and issued a detailed statement on the matter on the 13th of November, which was circulated to all media houses for dissemination to the public and is still available online for scrutiny and further interrogation. The nominated oil marketing companies, OMCs, also issued a joint presser on the matter on the 17th of November, last Friday, and discounted the narrative being advanced by detractors of government. C, I wish to add that the government-to-government oil purchase arrangement was arrived at following a threat of failure by oil marketing companies to supply petroleum products due to their inability to access the products as a result of US dollar liquidity scarcity coupled with outstanding subsidy arrears owed by government to the OMCs. This is what necessitated this arrangement to be put in place. The threat was evident from the overall incidence of fuel shortage at the retail petrol stations as marketers ran short of dollars to pay for the imports and due to cash flow challenges occasioned by the outstanding subsidies. So this means that because there were outstanding subsidy payments, then the OMCs were not able to procure or to import fuel. The requirement by the marketers to pay for the imports in US dollars within 5 days of receipt of cargo caused the marketers the trouble of hopping from one bank to another to secure the required dollars, facing difficulty artificial demand characterized by a spike in the exchange rates and high retail pump prices for the common hustler. All this persisted until the Kenya Kwanza government came to power, and in an effort to prevent the economy from the brink of collapse and shutdown over the paralysis in the petroleum supply chain in the country, the new administration had to look for a quick and viable solution, resorting to the government-to-government mode of supply, which is consistent with Kenya Kwanza Manifesto pledge of using the value chain model rather than the supply chain model in order to cushion the hustlers from the cartel-like behavior in the pricing and supply of basic and essential commodities. Now, the difference in terms of the supply chain and value chain is that in the supply chain, people produce without knowing where they are going to sell. But in the value chain is you start looking at the demand. And then out of that demand, you now request for supply of the same, so that there's a ready market and you know what you're producing for, and you're not working in silos. In this case, for example, the oil used per month for Kenya and Uganda and other countries that import through the port of Mombasa, there are 8 ships, 8 good ships, 4 for diesel, 3 for petrol, and 1 for jetty fuel stroke kerosene. So let's get that very clearly. This is a value chain, it's not a supply chain. Let me proceed. This campaign pledge led to the government issuing a tender where government-owned international companies from oil-producing countries were invited to bid for the supply of the petroleum products on 1st March 2023 on a 6-month deferred payment terms with a contract period of 9 months. By the close of the tender on 6th March 2023, bids were received from 7 oil marketing companies, namely Emirates National Oil Company, Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, Saudi Aramco, Petros and Trafigura, Vitol Bahrain, OQ Trading, and state-owned company of the Republic of Azerbaijan. Out of these, the 2 private companies were not qualified, while the other 5 government-owned were shortlisted. 3 of them qualified according to the terms and conditions set out by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, IPRA. Consequently, a memorandum of understanding was signed with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates on the 10th of March 2023. The MOU came to effect on the very day when the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum entered into a master framework agreement with Aramco Trading, Fujairah FZE Aramco, Abu Dhabi National Oil Corporation ADNOC, Global Trading Company Limited, and Emirates National Oil Company in Singapore, Private Limited, in short ENOC, effectively beginning the government-to-government petroleum product supply on extended credit terms of 180 days. So those 3 companies from Saudi, Emirates, and Abu Dhabi are the ones who actually won the tender. 5 government-to-government companies, 2 private, of course they were unqualified because this is G2G. This process underwent a thorough scrutiny of the relevant government agencies, including the National Treasury and the Office of the Attorney General. Documents in respect to the process, including the MOUs, the Master Framework Agreement, the Letter of Support, and the operational government-to-government arrangement between banks, the nominated oil marketing companies, and the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum were made public and are still available for scrutiny. They were also availed to both the National Assembly and the Senate through their respective standing committees of energy, which analyzed them and were satisfied that the due process was followed. The documents were also provided as part of the record in the resultant court cases related to this agreement. Because as you remember, there were 96 OMCs that went to court. They actually wanted an injunction. They had been given until it was lifted. So I think those documents are a matter of public interest, and so they are therefore available according to Article 35 of the Constitution on access to information, which is also what makes us to be here today. Let me say that assertions by some leaders that the government handpicked and nominated the involved oil marketing companies is not true. Going by the evidence of the explanation that I have just given, and I also want to clarify, the selection of the companies is that really are agents of the 3 government-owned companies from Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Abu Dhabi, are basically selected by those international oil companies in conformity to the signed Master Framework Agreement. In addition, the international oil companies were free to directly seek their licensing in Kenya and handle the entire transaction chain, but they opted to appoint counterparties or agents to take charge of their local logistics and went for Gulf Energy Limited, Galana Enterprise Limited, and Oryx Energy Kenya Limited, with no intervention whatsoever from the Kenyan government. For example, Galana has been in this business since 2005. So these are not newcomers into the market. And when you want to have people who handle your goods, you look for the best. The National Oil Company of Kenya, NOC, is not in a financial position to undertake such engagements since it's currently facing insolvency issues due to management mismanagement, basically, from the past. Because that's the question that I hear people asking, why did we not use NOC? NOC has challenges amounting to about 7.5 billion shillings. So it's not actually in a position to have get into, because when you are getting into these deals, you have to look at the best available option. Pricing of the petroleum products is another thorny. In Kenya, the price of fuel is done primarily from two ways. First is the Platts. They are called Platts prices. And then the other component is premium and freight charges. Now, the premium and freight charges are standard. For example, for petrol is about 79 shillings, 80 shillings or thereabout. But the Platts prices keep on fluctuating, and you know very well it's a question of production of oil, issues to do with war, but most interestingly of late, the value of the dollar because of the mopping up of liquidity by the foreign reserve, Federal Reserve in America. The impact of the different pricing methodologies has led to a temporary price advantage to Tanzania, and it's only temporary, because if you look at sometimes, our pricing is very stable, but sometimes it actually goes back up by even three times. In Kenya, pricing is normally done by IPRA in line with the petroleum pricing regulations of 2022, which require the volume and cost of cargoes to be considered during computation of pump prices in the pricing month. These factors, cargoes that have been discharged at the Port of Mombasa between 10th of every previous month and the 9th of the pricing month. So what does that mean in short? That the price of petrol or fuel for December is determined in November. And that is why you heard His Excellency the President saying that in December, because of the price that was procured in November, the price is likely to come down. And we hope that the shilling will not continue to escalate. Kenyans are about to realize favorable pump prices as the government-to-government arrangement takes full effect in the short and medium term. The arrangement has already eliminated the artificial demand that some oil marketing companies used to create by moving from bank to bank in search of $500 million US, leading to a high pump price for speculative tendencies. It has also enabled the economy to deal with the pent-up demand for the dollar, making it available to other sectors of the economy, such as the purchase of medicine and food, as well as relaxing the swaps that have been taken out by the market to support petroleum supply at the height of the crisis. Let me explain this. What I mean is that the dollar demand in this economy, about 40%, sometimes even more, emanates from purchase of oil or petroleum products. So when you have demand every month, it means that that takes precedence because it's a primary commodity. And that means other commodities such as medicine or food or whatever other importations that require the dollar will not have the dollars. The cash will not be available. So that's why then you find the spikes in petroleum pricing and what have you. So this has since been eliminated because the dollars will be paid off after 6 months, after 180 days. So the banks that have been nominated, KCB taking the lion's share, ABSA, NCBA, Stanbic, are also participants in this. They collect these dollars within 6 months and they are able to pay. And I'm happy to report to you that they have accumulated quite a bit of these dollars. And therefore, it is very good because it also enhances our dollar reserves. And it's also good to explain to you that they do not get the dollars from the Kenyan market. The OMCs that sell oil here in Kenya, it's 60% of the component of the 8 ships every month, and they actually sell or they buy with Kenya shillings. The 40% component is from where is actually dollars that are gotten from other economies that transit their oil through us. So it's very advantageous, actually, in our case, because it actually ensures that the dollar circulation is kept low here. And you've heard the president really speaking very strongly about the dollarization of our economies, because now when the foreign reserves are raised in America up to 5% or thereabout, then it means that we'll have shortages because people will use instruments to get their money to America because they're mopping up liquidity based on what they printed money during COVID. It's good to explain that. It is worthy to note that security of the US dollar is not unique in Kenya. Scarcity, sorry. It's worthy to note that the scarcity of the US dollar is not unique to Kenya. This has been largely due to the increase in the United States Federal Reserve interest rate, which has reached the highest level in 22 years. It has, in effect, caused capital flight from frontier markets back to the US, where the risk is considered lower, consequently causing the frontier markets, including Kenya, to experience issues of dollar liquidity. This is in both ways, as many of our trading partners are also experiencing significant challenges in paying for our exports, such as tea and coffee. So even us, we are finding challenges being paid in dollars because even them, dollar is scarce in their own countries. Ladies and gentlemen, on the issue of transportation of the petroleum products in the region, let me confirm as government spokesperson that there has been no change in the transit volumes to Uganda and the neighboring counties through the Kenya Pipeline Company, as alleged in some quarters. The Northern Corridor remains the most competitive in the transportation of products to Uganda and the adjacent countries which have traditionally been served by Kenya. Uganda has always utilized both the Northern Corridor, 90%, and the Central Corridor, carrying the remaining 10%, to meet her petroleum demand, and this has not yet changed. So we want to dismiss those spurious allegations around Uganda. The Kenya government appreciates Uganda as a key trading partner. In fact, I've just come from meeting the First Lady from that country, and remains committed, she's in the country actually, to facilitating the continued use of petroleum infrastructure in Kenya to transit products for the region's common benefit. In fact, as we speak, both the Cabinet Secretary Davis Churchill and PS Liban are in Uganda for a bilateral meeting on various matters of mutual interest with Kenya. That is how strong our relationship is. May I reiterate that the Kenyan government believes that the controversy surrounding the Kenya shilling 17 billion diesel import is just but a political gimmick and a smear campaign aimed at tarnishing the name of the government. That is our position. These are some of the reasons. Anjeri Njoroge claims the ship loaded the cargo, her ship, because she claims both the cargo and the ship are hers, on the 9th of October 2023 in Jeddah, and arrived in the port of Mombasa on the 11th October 2023. Yet, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of the Fourth Estate, the voyage from Jeddah to Mombasa takes a minimum of 11 days. So it is not possible to transport this in 2 days. That's a huge lie. 2, the documents Anjeri has given purport that both the ship and the cargo were hers. The only way to verify this is through a Q88 document. At the point of loading and offloading, and only the SGS, an international company that is contracted by KEBS, authenticates shipping processes and has confirmed that the documents were not genuine. Those are fake documents. The other allegation is that Galana, Gulf, and Oryx companies do not want to pay the 30% corporate tax on the diesel import. Nothing can be further than the truth. This is not true, as the taxes are paid at the source and within 5 days of receipt of cargo. The Kenya Revenue Authority has already confirmed receipt of over 3.6 billion shillings of the tax expected from the oil cargo of Mount Haigui, which is translating to 77% of the total tax due. And this is according to 2 days ago. So the figure definitely has gone up. So there is no way that one can evade taxation here, because KRA knows how much cargo is coming in and how much is its due. And it will even be known even a month before this is done. And the oil marketing companies that will have a portion of the share in any given ship are already known. And currently, we have 136 OMCs that have been qualified by IPRA under the State Department of Petroleum in the open tender system called OTS. It's a document, it's like msema kweli of that industry, of the oil industry. So if you claim you are Anjeri and you're not in the OTS, then you are fake. You are completely fake. The 136 companies are there, and they are very well known. The other allegation is that the ship is still floating at the high seas, waiting to dock and to sell. This is called spot purchasing, where you are just speculating and waiting for shortage for you to supply. The statement is also untrue, as the ship docked at the port of Mombasa on 4th November at 0840 hours, and on 5th November, discharge of the cargo commenced. And it was oscillating between two jetties. The consignees and their respective portions of the bulk cargo are listed in the manifest submitted by the ship's agent, and Anjeri's Import and Export Enterprise Limited is not one of the manifested consignees. So we don't know who is this. This is a total stranger. A fake woman. Or is it a woman who is fake? Anyway, I don't know. The whole issue has thus proven to be fake, untrue, and a red herring. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations, who have engaged, is already carrying out investigations. In fact, he sent his team to Mombasa 2-3 days ago, and should speedily conclude these investigations in order to arrest and prosecute Anjeri, who has since disappeared from the public limelight and really appears to be an imposter. She failed to appear before the Committee of the Finance in the National Assembly yesterday. So who is this shadowy figure? Further, there is nothing irregular. The 17 billion shillings reportedly having been withdrawn by the National Treasury, as someone was trying to sensationally claim, because the withdrawal was done, please listen to this, to pay off some companies who had balances accruing from the oil subsidy program that had been introduced by the previous administration. The withdrawal by the National Treasury was thus procedural. And those companies are about 20-something or thereabout. And that information is open for public scrutiny. So the end of the financial year, pay off subsidies so that we do away with it, because we made a commitment as Kenya Kwanza government not to subsidize consumption, but to subsidize production. Therefore, the ongoing public utterances by the opposition luminaries or our detractors is therefore nothing but mere politics and as mere campaign against the government with the aim of distracting the people from appreciating the achievements made so far in the stabilization of the economy and control of the disturbing high cost of living that is affecting all of us, and we acknowledge that. For example, the interests from the dollar reserves by KCB and other participating banks are used to offset pump prices after deduction of bank charges. This exercise is supervised by the Treasury Investment Management Committee. The G2G arrangement, therefore, has thus eliminated many middlemen who relied on spot purchases of the petroleum products to exploit Kenyans by causing artificial shortages, but have now been run out of business as the government sought to cushion common mwananchi, the common hustler, from being exploited. It is their tool in trade. They knew how they would make money. They knew how they would make artificial shortages. Now they are fighting back. What we are witnessing, therefore, is these cartels fighting back by using some politicians who also have some personal interest in the oil industry. As you are all well aware, the matter is still under investigations by the DCI, and we are hopeful that those who will be found culpable shall be prosecuted within the basic tenets of the law, because we actually committed ourselves to uphold the rule of law. We thus appeal to the members of the fourth estate. We thus appeal to the members of the fourth estate to disseminate factual information to the public and resist from the invitation to engage in disinformation, misinformation, and political propaganda in this era of fake news. I thank you. Now, nataka kusema tu kwa Kiswahili, alafu tunaweza kuchukua maswali. Waheshimiwa wataadhimiwa, waandishi wa habari wa vyombo vya habari, nashukuru kwamba mmekuja hapa katika huu mkutano wetu wa kila wiki ambao tunaufanya kila Alhamisi ili kuelezea masuala ibuka ambayo serikali lazima iweze kuelezea. Na huu ndio mkutano wetu wa tatu na wanahabari. Mwanzo tulikuwa nao hapa Jumatano iliyopita na pia Ijumaa wakati kulikuwa na kongamano la baraza la mawaziri na makatibu na serikali kwa ujumla katika ukumbi wa The Edge pale South Sea. Leo hii tumewaita ili kuelezea kile ambacho kimetendeka kutokana na tetesi za ununuaji wa mafuta petroli kwa serikali kupitia kampuni za kimataifa ambazo zinamilikiwa na serikali zingine. Huu mfumo wa ununuaji umetokana na kwamba ukikumbuka mwaka uliopita kulikuwa na shida sana ya ukosefu wa mafuta. Ukikumbuka hata wakati tulikuwa tunaenda sikukuu ya Pasaka hakukuwa na mafuta. Na serikali ya Kenya Kwanza ikachukua msimamo kutokana na manifesto yake kwamba haitaweza kuwa ikichukua mafuta kulingana na vile leo tumeamukia. Ikakuwa na mkakati kabambe wa kuongea na serikali zingine ambazo zinaweza kuzalisha mafuta ili waweze kutupatia mafuta kwa bei nafuu. Na si bei nafuu kivipi? Kila mwezi zaidi ya 40% ya dola zinazohitajika hapa nchini kununua bidhaa kutoka nchi za nje zinakwenda kununua mafuta. Basi wakaweka tender, open tender system, kampuni 7 zikaweza kuchukua huo mwito. 2 zilikuwa za kibinafsi, 5 zilikuwa za kiserikali na 3 zikaweza kupita huo mtihani kulingana na masharti ya IPRA ambayo ni halmashauri ambayo inashughulikana na mambo ya petroli na mambo ya kawi. Na hizo kampuni ni 3, Saudi Aramco kutoka Saudia, Emirate Oil, National Oil kutoka Emirati na pia shirika la kampuni ya mafuta ya Abu Dhabi. Sasa kila mwezi, kwa sababu ya kile ambacho tunaita kwa kimombo value chain, sio supply chain, serikali ya Kenya Kwanza iliahidi kwamba itakuwa ikitumia huo mfumo ili kupiga tathmini ya yale mahitaji ya soko huria, ndiposa watu wasiweze kutengeneza bidhaa ama huduma ambazo zinazohitajika bila ya kujua ni nani ambaye ataweza kuzinunua. Na hiyo ndio njia moja ya kutafutia masoko kwa njia ambayo inaifaa. Kila mwezi Kenya inahitaji meli 8 za mafuta. Meli 4 ni za diesel. Meli 3 ni za petroli. Na meli 1 ni ya jeti ya ndege na pia mafuta taa. Nafikiri ni vizuri watu wajue pia mafuta taa haiko tofauti sana na mafuta ya ndege. Nafikiri watu wengi hawajui hiyo. Kwa hiyo sasa zile kampuni 3 zikapewa hiyo kazi. Wa Saudia dizeli 2. Na ukiangalia mtawalia utaona hivyo mpaka mwisho. Lakini sasa wao wenyewe wakaamua kuchukua kampuni za Kikenya zikuwe kama agenti wa biashara zao hapa. Ndizo Galana, ndizo pia ndio pia nyingine inaitwa Oryx na nyingine inaitwa Gulf. Na hizi kampuni serikali haikuhusika kwa njia yoyote kuzichagua, kwa sababu ni wao walikuwa wanatafuta maagenti. Zile kampuni za mafuta ambazo zimesajiliwa kuuza mafuta hapa nchini kulingana na kanuni za kitengo hicho cha uchumi ni 136. Na wale ambao wanasema kwamba sijui Angeri International sijui, hiyo kampuni haipo katika hiyo orodha. Kile ambacho kilikuwa kinatendeka hapo awali ni kwamba kulikuwa na meli ambazo zilikuwa kule baharini zikizunguka kuangalia kama kuna ukosefu wa mafuta ama bidhaa nyingine. Alafu unasikia unamwambia leta hiyo meli Mwaura hapa ama Kenya inahitaji. Sasa hapo kulikuwa na biashara ambayo inafanyika ambayo ilikuwa sio nzuri, kwa sababu ilikuwa inawezekana kwamba kwamba useme kwamba hakuna mafuta ndio uweze kuagizia zile bidhaa. So hilo ni jambo la kwanza, inaitwa spot purchasing kwa kimombo. Jambo la pili ni kwamba sasa hivi kuna upungufu wa dola za Kimarekani, kwa sababu wakati wa COVID ili waweze kukimu na kukidhi mahitaji ya wananchi wao, wa Marekani waliweza kutengeneza dola nyingi kuliko vile ambavyo ilivyokuwa inafaa, kwa sababu hiyo ndio nchi pekee yake ya ulimwengu ambayo inaweza kuchapisha pesa. Yaani akichapisha karatasi hivi ni pesa na ni sawa. Kulingana na ekonomia, wanauchumi mnaelewa hilo. Sasa hivi wameweza kuongeza riba kununua zile dola, ili kwa sababu dola ilikuwa imeanza kukosa dhamani mpaka 93%. Sasa hilo jambo limeweza kuleta shida kabisa, kwa sababu tunaagizia bidhaa zetu kupitia dola na hizo dola hazipatikani. Sasa serikali ya Kenya Kwanza ikaamua kuingia katika huu mkataba na serikali hizo zingine 3, ndiposa tuwe tuna mwanya wa miezi 6 ama siku 180, ndiposa tunalipa dola baada ya wakati huo. Na kuna benki ambazo zinahusika, ndiposa hata hizo dola ziweze kutumika kununua chakula, kununua madawa kwa wananchi. Lakini kuna watu ambao sasa walikuwa wanafaidi kutokana na ule mpango wa hapo awali, na ni msimamo wa serikali kwamba huyu Angeri mwanzo hiyo kampuni haijasajiliwa kufanya kazi ya biashara ya mafuta. Hilo ni jambo la kwanza. Jambo la pili, zile stakabadhi zake ni gushi, kwa sababu kuna kampuni inaitwa SGS ambayo imepatiwa kazi na Kenya Bureau of Standards kuidhinisha kama kweli kuna uhalali wa nyaraka zote za meli, na ningependa kusema kwamba wametupatia ripoti kwamba hizo stakabadhi, hizo nyaraka ni gushi. Jambo la tatu, kuna tetesi kwamba eti hiyo meli bado inangojea bidhaa yake kupokewa katika port pale, lakini bandari tayari hiyo kazi imemalizika na meli kushaondoka, MT haigui. Jambo lingine pia ambalo wanajaribu kusema ambalo ni la uongo ni kwamba hizi kampuni tatu hazilipi kodi. Ukweli wa mambo ni kwamba kodi inalipwa kila ukishapata mzigo wako, kama ni haya mafuta, na tayari shilingi bilioni 3.6 zimeweza kulipwa kwa shirika letu la ushuru KRA, na wamedhibitisha hilo, ambao ni 57% ya kodi yote ambayo inafaa kutozwa kutoka katika hii meli, na hizo ni siku 2 zilizopita. Kwa hiyo huo ni urongo mtupu. Pia kuna swala nyingine ambalo wengine wanauliza ati kwamba kuna shida na Uganda. Ningependa kuambia huo ni uongo mtupu. Hakuna chochote ambacho kimetokea kati ya Kenya na Uganda, hata kama mnavyojua First Lady wao yuko hapa, na pia Waziri Chirchir na PS katibu mkuu wa wizara wameondokea huko kuendelea kufuatilizia mambo mengine kule. Na nakumbuka tulipowaita tuliwaambia kwamba pengine PS atakuwa hapa, ndio sababu hangeweza kufika. Kwa hivyo tuna uhusiano mzuri sana wa Uganda na Kenya, na ikumbuke kwamba bidhaa zote za Uganda wanatumia barabara yetu, wanatumia pipeline yetu, wanatumia reli yetu kwa 90%. Wanatumia tu 10% kupata bidhaa nyingine kutoka pengine bandari zingine na kadhalika. Pia ni vizuri kusema kwamba ukiangalia zile tetesi ambazo zinawekwa hapa, ni dhahiri shairi kwamba wale ambao ni wapinzani wetu, njama yao ni kuharibia serikali sifa, kuharibia serikali jina, kwa sababu walikuwa na uzoefu wa kujitajirisha, kujifaidi kutokana na ukosefu wa mafuta. Hilo ni jambo la kweli. Wanasema kwamba kule Tanzania mafuta ni bei ya chini. Wacha nieleze kinagobaga. Mafuta ya Kenya hununuliwa mwezi mmoja kabla, kwa sababu ndio hiyo meli ifike hapa inachukua siku 40, lakini wanachukua muda wa siku 60, kwa sababu kunaweza kuwa na shida pale hivi. Kwa sababu imepimwa, hata unaweza kwenda kwenye mtandao uangalie na uone hii meli ilitoka wapi inafika wapi, hata kwenye bidhaa zingine, sio tu mafuta. Sasa hawa wenzetu wanaona hilo ni jambo la kushangaza, kwa sababu sasa hawatakuwa na meli zao kule zikingojea kuuza mafuta hapa, kwa sababu tushapima, tushatathmini, tushapanga, tukaona kwamba kila mwezi tunahitaji meli 8 za mafuta, 4 za diesel, 3 za petrol, na hizo zingine za jeti na mafuta taa. Sasa wao watapata soko wapi? Na mkumbuke kwamba kama lazima tufaidi mwananchi wa kawaida, lazima hawa wapigane, kwa sababu kuna nyama tumewatoa kwa mdomo. Kwa hivyo ukiona hizi tetesi, wale wengine wanapiga kelele zaidi, wengine hao wako na hizo kampuni za mafuta wenyewe. Na inajulikana kampuni za mafuta ambazo zimesajiliwa rasmi kuuza mafuta Kenya hii ni kampuni 136, kutokana na msema kweli wa mambo ya petroli ambayo inaitwa kwa kimombo OTS, Open Tender System. Kwa hivyo nyanja ya mafuta ipo na wenyewe, lakini lazima ufuate zile kanuni za IPRA ndiposa uweze kuingizwa katika huo msema kweli. Na mimi mwenyewe nimepitia hiyo orodha kama msemaji wa serikali, na sijaona Anjeri investment pale hata kidogo. Kwa hiyo tuseme kwamba hii ni njama tu ya kutuharibia sifa. DCI tayari ameanza kufanya upelelezi, ametuma majasusi kule Mombasa. Tungojee kile ambacho atachokipata, kwa sababu huyu Anjeri hata mnaona ameitwa kule bungeni jana, hakuweza kufika. Kwa hivyo anatumiwa, yeye ni kikaragosi ambacho kinatumiwa ili kuoneshana kama kuna jambo ambalo halipo, na wale ambao wangelipenda huu mradi ama huu mpango ama huu mfumo uweze kusambaratika, niposa waendelee kufaidi kutokana na vile ambavyo soko haikuwa inaweza kujibu ukosefu wa mafuta. hawa watu kwa kimombo wanafaidi kile tunaita kwa kimombo market failure. Wakati tumekuja na suluhisho, basi wanaona njia yao nzuri ni kuharibia serikali ya Kenya Kwanza sifa. Niseme kwamba ni kweli tuliamua kuwa na uwazi na utendakazi ambao unajulikana kama serikali hii. Na wakati tulianza kusema kwamba tutabadilisha uchumi, haikuwa itendeke kwa njia rahisi, ndugu zangu. Lazima kungelikuwa na gharama. Na gharama moja ni hawa matapeli kujaribu kuifisidi nchi, kujaribu kutumia nafasi fulani ambazo za nguvu ambazo wako nazo ili kuweza kuwahadaa wananchi. Na ningependa kuwaomba wanahabari na vyombo vya habari wasiukubali huo mwito wa kujiingiza pamoja na hawa wenzetu, kwa sababu wana nia zao ambazo sio nzuri na sio nia ambazo zinatufaidi. Wengine wana makampuni ya wakibinafsi ambao wanafaidi kutokana na hilo. Kwa hivyo Kenya iko imara, ndivyo ni wakati mgumu, na tunakubali kama serikali kwamba mambo sio rahisi, lakini tunajaribu kila kukicha tuhakikishe kwamba tumebadilisha taswira ya uchumi wa nchi yetu, na hilo sio jambo rahisi, ni jambo gumu. Na ningependa kuambia wananchi wenzangu, tuwe na subra, tupatie hii serikali muda, lakini kwa hakika mambo yataanza kuonekana ambayo yatamfaidi mwananchi wa kawaida, yule hasla. Kenya ni nchi nzuri, Kenya itasimama, Kenya itanawiri, Kenya ina mambo ya hatima ambayo yatafaidi mwananchi wa kawaida, bila kuangazia ametoka katika familia gani, ni wa sampuli gani, ni wa jinsia gani, ana ulemavu ama hana, kwa sababu sisi tumejitwika huo mzigo wa kuhakikisha hilo jambo limeweza kutendeka. Asanteni sana na Mungu awabariki.
Naam, Waswahili wanasema wali wa kushibisha huonekana sahanini, na bila shaka msemaji wa serikali ameweka mambo waziwazi, na kama ilivyo usomo wetu, sasa hakuna siri, hatuchezi propaganda, tunawaambia mambo ilivyo. Kwa sasa basi tunaregesha mikrofoni upande wa wanahabari wetu, muweze kuuliza maswali mawili matatu kwa msemaji wa serikali aweze kuweka mambo parwanja waziwazi bila kuficha. Mwenye kipaza sauti, tuambie jina lako na watoka media house gani.
Hello? You can hear me? My name is Hilda, I'm from Sauti TV, and my question is on the electricity prices. Right now we're purchasing power from 100, you're getting only 3.5 units. Are the prices likely to go down, and if so, when?
No.
My name is Givison Minor from Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, and my question is, you know, as you've put it, you're saying Anjeri is just a proxy. Could we know these proxies, and if they are very well connected people, influential politicians, and if not, can you assure Kenyans that after the investigations, these faces behind the proxy, who you say is Njeri, will be shown to Kenyans? Because this is the question that Kenyans are asking. Who is Anjeri? If not Anjeri, if she's not the owner of these 17 billion worth of oil, then who is? That's the question.
My name is Melita Oletenges for NTV. My question is, you mentioned that the 17 billion that was withdrawn from Treasury was actually used to pay some of the bills that were accrued by the previous government in terms of the fuel levy. My question is, can this be actually be put out there in the public domain just to show that this is actually what transpired? Because if that does not happen, then it means Kenyans will rely on whatever is being said, because it also comes from the leaders in government. My other question is, can you confirm that we have a CAS in the Ministry of Treasury and Planning, because we've had that come up In the past 7 days, we've seen someone claim that they are indeed a CIS, and we know this is a process that was stopped by the High Court, and it was rendered unconstitutional. Thank you.
Tutachukua mengine mawili alafu waweze kujibu.
My name is Lame Kagutu from K24, and you've said that Anjeri actually wants to taint the name of other politicians who have some personal interest in the oil business. Could you please mention the names if you have them with you?
One more, or we are good to go? And tunampa nafasi msemaji wa serikali aweze kuwajibu. Spokes.
Thank you. Asante sana Mwanaisha. Let me start by saying we'll have another second round of questions, so be prepared, so that then we conclude another 5 and then we are done. I think the first question was from, is it Stella? The lady. What's your name? Huh? Kaida. Hilda, thank you. Sorry, I didn't get your name properly. So Hilda, the issue of electricity pricing, I need to explain to you something. First, of course, you know the issue of IPPs is controversial. People who were procured to provide electricity at a very exorbitant costs, and if there's any shortfall, then it goes back to the government. That is yet to be resolved, but it's a thorn in the flesh. Number 2 is that a lot of this also, uses, imported diesel to run the turbines. Again, that's also a big issue because of the dollar issue. Number 3 is that our national grid has a challenge because we are able to provide, I think, about 26 gigabytes, so I'll get it right. We have the capacity to do so, including renewable energy, but currently we have 13 of such. Gigawatts, sorry, not gigabytes, gigawatts. Because of the last mile connectivity that brought on board about 1 million users, KenGen gives KPLC 13 gigawatts, but they are only able to transmit 10 because of an old national grid. So that has an effect of about 20% increase because that has to be taken care of because there are many losses. So it's a work in progress. There's no silver bullet because you can see there are many dynamics there, but we hope and believe that eventually this country will invest more in renewable energy, which is much, much cheaper, than whatever we have currently. So it's not a question that I can answer you directly, but we are hopeful because for sure, I agree with you, Hilda, the cost of electricity is a bit high, even for all of us who are here. It's good to accept that. But there are those factors and it's good I bring them out. So I really appreciate your question. Gibson Minor, yes. Cowards are cowards, my brother. Why are they not coming out? Why are they not showcasing the Anjeri to Parliament if they are very genuine? But they are hiding under a woman who, when you look at her, she may not necessarily look 17 billion, by the way. Does she look 17 billion? There's a way people who have money look like, by the way. Yeah, it's true. I mean, you can tell. There are those who don't have money, but they also look good. There are those who have money and they also don't look as maybe you would expect. But my personal opinion is that she's a front to people, and they are cowards. They are cowards because they are not coming up to own their marionette. And it's unfortunate they are taking that woman through hell just to smear the government's image so that they bring down this whole issue. And it's very well calculated, by the way, very well calculated. But in due course, it's going to come out. Let DCI finish its investigations so that we are not just dealing with conjecture. Melita Oletangus, yes, that information is in the public domain. You can actually get it from the National Treasury. So there's nothing to hide, my brother. There's nothing to hide about the companies that were paid. And remember, you are the same people who carried a story, sometimes I think mid this year or thereabout, where the oil marketers were demanding 34 billion to be paid as arrears, as pending bills by government. So that is why it had to be closed in that financial year. And usually Article 223 gives the National Treasury to do so. They can expend, and then it's regularized by Parliament. I have been Vice Chairman of the Finance and Budget Committee of Senate. I've been a member of the National Assembly Budget Committee for 6 good years in those 2 committees. I can tell you that is legal. I saw some people trying to say that they misuse their power. It's not true. If you investigate further, you still find it's not just 17 billion. It could be much more because they have that provision in the Constitution. So why would you say they misuse that power? They didn't. It was within their powers. And sometimes even when we are trying to sell stories, tusiongeze chumvi hapo. If I have the power to do it, how does it become an abuse? Really, honestly. My friend, I am a former CAS. Appointed on 16th of March, gazetted on 22nd of March, and sworn in on 23rd of March. Then there was a court injunction on 24th of March. And then the positions were declared unconstitutional on 3rd of July. And then we went back to court, and on 16th of October, the Court of Appeal refused to give a stay. That same day, by the way. But that was like a preliminary ruling. They are making a further, a final judgment, or rather the judgment will be out on the 8th of December. Yeah? So until such a time that the courts rule otherwise, those positions have been declared unconstitutional. And the president said very clearly that he will abide by the rule of law. There is an active appeal at the Court of Appeal. So when that is done, then we will get to know what is the position. So I think, I don't know who is it that you claim to be LCAS in the National Treasury, but I would also want to tell you it is true that we had already been allocated dockets. Like for me, I was a CAS in the Prime Cabinet Secretary office, and I was in charge of parliamentary affairs. So maybe going by that, but that matter is still active in court, so I cannot comment further. You may actually be accused of sub judice. But these are Kenyans also. They are Kenyans, and they deserve to serve this country. These are my colleagues. I stand with them, and I hope that in due course the matter shall be resolved, and it is not fair to demonize them just because we may want to settle political scores. Number 5 is Lamech. And again, you're asking the same question about who are these people. Let's wait for DCI to unmask them. Yeah, unmask them. Then we will get to know who they are. You know, you'll peel the mask and you'll see who it is. Let's have another 5, Manisha.
Na maswali mengine matano ndio tuwapatie muda mweze kufika katika ofisi zenu kwa wakati ufao. Any question? English, Swahili? Maybe from Kameme or something? Tuko sawa? Sawa. Aya basi ndugu zangu, shukrani sana kwa muda wenu na kwa kufika kuweza kujumuika nasi. Vile vile ningependa kuwakumbusha kwamba tutakuwa tunazungumza na wanahabari kila siku ya Alhamisi. So tutakuwa tunawapatia taarifa ya kuwaita either Jumatano ama Alhamisi. Muda na pengine utakuwa unabadilika, lakini kila Alhamisi kwa wiki tutakuwa tunaweza kuzungumza na habari. Na hii leo kwa tumemwalika PS Wabarila, lakini kutokana na sababu ambazo hazingeweza kuepukika hakuweza kufika. Lakini baada ya muda tutakuwa na wageni, tutakuwa na mawaziri na wabungi wenye viti ambao watakuja wakifafanua masuala ambayo yanaathiri Mkenya moja kwa moja. Kwa hivyo asanteni sana, na nanuia kwamba tutaweza kufanya kazi na nyinyi kwa pamoja. Shukran and welcome anytime. Ofisi yetu iko wazi anytime na